So, if there is one lesson that I have learned, it is do not buy a guitar while sitting on the pot. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. I'm Utkarsh. If you like what's going on in this channel, please do consider subscribing. It is a very, very important way of encouraging us to do what we're doing here. Now on to the topic. Over the last 10 years, I have bought and sold about 150 guitars. It's a crazy number, I know. And I still have about 80 of them. And as you can imagine, through this process, I have learned a fair bit, of course, and I have seen the ups and I've seen the downs. And there are a multitude of things that I would like to share, kind of the knowledge gained. And this particular story is a cautionary tale, perhaps. It shows you some of the mental gymnastics that some of us do. It shows you the danger of clicking, of one-click purchase, all of that. So I'm going to share the story with you. The story of this guitar really begins with my band. So my band in Singapore, the Mugshots, we have 3 guitarists. And having 3 guitarists presents a unique problem in that you have to figure out how all 3 guitars sit in the mix. And the consequence of this usually is that one of us is always unable to hear each other. And in Singapore, usually the rehearsal spaces are really, really small. And, you know, and everybody is just trying to be louder than the other one. You can imagine it's a huge mishmash. And the struggle that I've always had, so we use different methods actually. I use my Helix into the PA. I'll talk about that, and this is a critical part of the story actually. My friend goes straight into the amp, and another person does a kind of a hybrid of both. And it was always the case that the singer slash guitarist who uses the Telecaster, he always had tremendous cut through, higher than me, much more than me. And usually I play a PRS, McCarthy 594 was usually what I was playing at that point in time. And I was never able to have the kind of cut through that he had, and which was ironic because he was the rhythm guitarist and I was the lead. And then of course there's my third friend who also struggled with cut through. He plays the PRS 513. So all of these things kind of put a seed in my head that, you know what, I need a guitar with better cut through. And I remember reading one of Paul Reed Smith's interview that, you know, the Paul's guitar has been designed because he plays in a band with 3 guitarists and he needs to kind of make sure that he can be heard. So I was like, that kind of sounds like my problem. So that was always one of the Paul's guitar was always on my radar for that reason. This was also around the time that the Modern Eagle 5 came out. And the Modern Eagle 5 was essentially the Paul's guitar with extra single coil, so it can do pretty much every sound, 34 sounds, and it has a tremolo, so the ultimate, most versatile guitar. So this is important background because I had it on my mind that I probably need to get a Modern Eagle 5. I want to give a quick note on the cut-through point. Actually, it was nothing to do with the guitar. The main thing was the guitarists who were going into an amplifier with a proper 4x12 speaker were just pushing a lot more air. Whereas I was going into the PA, which was not a proper PA, but like a PA without even a subwoofer system. So it was impossible, no matter what I did with any guitar. You cannot push the same amount of air from a PA, from a small PA, not a proper PA, versus a 4x12. So the ultimate solution that I figured out was I started going into the FX loop of a different amplifier. So basically hijacking the power cab. So I was able to get the same cut through. Just an important point, the guitar was never going to solve this problem. But I know this now after many years of playing, gigging, trying, playing, experimenting. But let's keep that aside. Getting back to the point, I wanted to get a Modern Eagle 5. I thought I'd keep an eye out for it. The initial ones that came out, that was the time period when I was really I wasn't into rosewood fretboards as much, though I had a Modern Eagle 1, the original with the Brazilian rosewood. I wanted something with an ebony fretboard. And I was looking for something in the right color. So, 2 or 3 things happened. September of 2000, and I believe this is 2021. Yes, 2021. I got my bonus. And of course, I worked in a corporate. The bonus was pretty decent, more than enough to buy a Modern Eagle 5 and much, much more. So that was there. Though I had plenty of plans already of what to do with that bonus, other more, correct, more responsible things to do than buying a guitar. So I had that in mind, but nonetheless, I was suddenly armed with a certain amount of money, which I don't usually have in my bank account. Secondly, Andertons released a video that they had gone to the PRS factory and they got Paul Miles to stain. Paul Miles is the head of private stock. They got him to stain a few necks or something. And thirdly, came out on the Andertons website this amazing Modern Eagle 5, which was stained by Paul Miles himself. And it had probably one of the craziest quill tops that I had seen at that point in time. Now I'm more well versed with quill tops, so I wouldn't call that the best quill top ever because it wasn't as three-dimensional. And some quill tops, some of them in my collection are much better, much more three-dimensional. That one is just a lot of figuring, but not that much depth. Nonetheless, still an outstanding top. And it had a quilt veneer maple fretboard as well. It just looked the business. It looked like the Night King from Game of Thrones. So for some reason, when I saw it that night, it was not available, and I was like, damn, this thing sold out so quickly, even though it was a 13,000 pound guitar. But lo and behold, and this is where I get into the beginning of the video where I say, do not take decisions when you are sitting on the pot. Next morning, woken up, just waking up, and so a lot of us use the phone to wake ourselves up, really. I was sitting and I was just browsing again where I had browsed. Bad idea. But nonetheless, I opened the Andertons website again, and lo and behold, it was available. And I was like, was it not available last night? Something. So I took it as a sign. Again, instructive thinking over here. And I got it. And it was by far the most expensive guitar that I bought. And to buy a brand new guitar of that price, to ship it across, to pay all the duties, everything on it, it's a crazy amount of money. In the local currency, after everything, it was more than 21,000 Singapore dollars, maybe about 16,000 US, 15,000 US. Crazy number. I would normally have not done it, but I don't know. It's just sometimes these things just take over you. And I justified it to myself, my God, this is so unique. It has 24 frets, and it has this, and it has that. And the guitar came. And I have to tell you, initially I was enamored by it because all PRS private stocks are amazing guitars, so this was no different. And this had a very unique wood combination because it had an ash body and an ash neck, maple fretboard, maple top, so incredibly bright. Like I haven't ever played a brighter guitar, even though it had humbuckers, etc. So it was definitely standing out compared to any other guitar. I didn't really get a chance to take it to jamming because my band kind of blows hot and cold depending on the schedules of the folks. We all have business travel and stuff like that. But being it in my room, it was very different from a humbucker guitar because the Paul's guitar, Modern Eagle 5, already has thinner humbuckers. So I was like, yes, this is great. But here's the thing. It was so elaborate, and I have many private stocks in my collection, but this was a different level of being elaborate because it had puffing and this and that. It was so elaborate, it was almost ornamental to the point that I just did not feel like playing it like I play many of my guitars. Let me show you one guitar. So this is not a guitar I play with my band, but this is a private stock nonetheless, which I consider my number one. And if you look at it, it has dings. It has scratches. It's faded. The top of it was supposed to be green. It's faded completely. I have no qualms about playing this guitar. Very unique guitar also. We'll cover this guitar, the story of this guitar in another video. Point is, this guitar, I have no qualms in playing it. I enjoy it. It's not ornamental. The main reason why I need to get a private stock for this is PRS does not make a 7-string Floyd Rose direct humbucker mount, a custom 24 anywhere. They just make it in private stock. In fact, this is the only one they ever made. So here's where it made a lot of sense to me. I mean, this kind of guitar makes a lot of sense. That guitar was a Modern Eagle 5. Yes, it had 24 frets, but it was a Modern Eagle 5, just super beautiful. And I actually, even though I am probably known as that PRS private stock guy on the internet, it was just too ornamental for me, and I was never playing it. And then, as you can imagine, things happened. And then, I was in end 2021 was where also when we bought our new place, our new house. and we really stretched ourselves. And that was a particular point in time where I was like, I am not comfortable with the amount of cash buffer that I have. So I really think I need to liquidate some guitars. And, that's a bad place to be in. You should never be in a place like that, where you need to liquidate guitars for money, honestly. I mean, that's the recipe for losing money, frankly. Another lesson. If you're selling a guitar, if you're in a hurry, you're going to be in trouble, especially if you're selling a premium guitar. But yeah, so that was the case at that point in time. Ultimately, I didn't have to sell it to liquidate the guitar, but that definitely was the reason I put it on the market. But the reason I wanted to really liquidate the guitar was this guitar, actually. So this guitar is a guitar in Japan, and spec'd by a Japanese dealer. I had been following it for 3 years, for 4 years, and maybe 3 years. I don't know. It's a long period of time. When was this built? Actually, no. It's only 2 years. My apologies. Felt like a long time. Important. This is why you need to check facts by actually looking at the actual things. I looked at the date of manufacture. So I'd been following this for 2 years, and I wanted to get this guitar because I knew that I wanted a 7-string PRS Custom 24, a proper one, not a SE. And they aren't built in regular ones. They're just built in, in private stock. What am I saying? So I had a hardtail, but I wanted one with a trem. So I had to be very disciplined that I'm not going to buy another $10,000 guitar, $11,000 guitar just like that. It has to make sense. So what happened was this guitar was actually damaged a little bit. It was now, I don't know what happened to it in the shop. So a lot of it faded, definitely. A lot of these dings and everything came to it in the shop. So this thing was reduced from about 13,000 US to about 8,500 US. So it was just something that I had to get because you can't get this guitar, let alone at this price. So, and I had to make a decision which guitar has to go, and I have to make sure it goes, and it was at Modern Eagle 5. So, consequently, the Modern Eagle 5 was in Reverb. Again, I live in Singapore, so imagine you're shipping it all the way over there. It was such an outstanding guitar that it's one of those private stocks that you see on Instagram or you see anywhere, and you're like, my God, this is the most beautiful guitar I've seen. So it wasn't that difficult to sell it, but I think I sold it finally for about 9.5 or 10,000 US. But please do the math on that. Take away reverb fees, take away shipping fees, take away the tax that I had paid. I think I probably lost the equivalent of maybe 6 to 7,000 US dollars on that guitar, or maybe close to 9 to even 10,000 Singapore dollars. $10,000 lost on one guitar. Thankfully, this is the only time something like that has happened to me. And I learned a few lessons, and I'll tell you, I mean, you've heard a few of them, but let me tell you a few more. I think the first important one is that you do not buy a very expensive new guitar at the spur of a moment, ever. If indeed you want to buy one, spend your time, think about it. And I'm talking new guitar here. I'm not necessarily talking, say you want to buy a used guitar that is a very rare guitar and it never comes up. Sometimes you need to pounce on those things. But a new guitar, you should not buy like that unless you know that is exactly what you want. Not like as an experiment. Oh, I think that I would like the Paul's guitar humbuckers. Oh, I think I would like this particular thing. No, if you know exactly what you want, I want. So one guitar that I did buy new, and I didn't buy it on the spur of the moment, but I did buy it new, it was exactly what I wanted, which was a PRS private stock single cut 594 tremolo, very rare, in purple, even rarer, with a figured mahogany neck, which is exactly what I wanted for the sound, exactly that, with the ebony fretboard, exactly what I wanted. It was literally spec'd for me. So I got that. That was not an experiment. I'll cover that guitar at a different stage. That was exactly the culmination of what I wanted all these years. But the Modern Eagle 5 in 24 fret was an experiment in every sense of the word. I had never had an Ash guitar. And talking about the Ash guitar, it was just such a bright guitar. So I'm a Les Paul player. I'm not a Strat player. So I think people who like Strats would like the sound of that guitar. For me, it was just too bright, even though it was humbucker guitar. So why you should not experiment with something that expensive? So yeah, so that's the story of the most expensive guitar, or rather not the most. It is also, no, it's not the most expensive guitar I ever bought, but it is certainly the guitar I have lost the most money on. I hope there are a few things for you to learn as well from this particular, experience of mine. Let me know what you think about this series. This series is going to be the guitar. So the next one will be the guitar that I made the most money on. You can bet that there are plenty of guitars I made a lot of money on as well. Made a lot of money on as well. But yeah, we'll cover a lot of more stories from the guitars in the collection in this series. Till next time.